On the 1st of September, Ironhide announced an open beta for Frontiers, where they introduced the Challenge Editor. As soon as you beat the 4th level, Dunes of Despair, you gain access to a menu that offers customizable challenges for you to play or create yourself. The main menu here is the My Challenges page, where you can set your own rules for a challenge, beat it to prove it's possible, and then save that challenge as a shareable link. To me, nothing is more important in this update than the parameters you can edit. All throughout my life, whenever there was an option to make your own levels, characters, or etc. in a video game that I played, I would immediately drop any other objectives I had in order to experiment with my creative options as much as possible. I can't remember a time when I didn't exhaust everything at my disposal in one of those. That being said, this isn't the same thing. You don't create something new in the game, but rather, you set the player's possible options to whatever you want in an effort to make for an interesting gameplay scenario. The options you can control include the following: the stage, whether it's campaign, heroic, or iron; the difficulty, which gnome shop items you can use, which specific spells you can use, whether or not heroes are enabled and which one, whether the hero is at level 1, 3, 7, or 10, the level of all star upgrades from 0 up to max, the number of towers from 0 to 19 or infinity, and the max level upgrades for each specific tower. The reason hero levels can only be set to 1, 3, 7, or 10 is presumably because it's enough stars to get tier 0, 1, 2, or 3 versions of every skill, though perhaps there would be more advanced control over heroes' upgrades and level in the future. I have seen that heroes can gain XP during a challenge as well, with no setting to disable that, which is the first of multiple signs that this editor could be more fleshed out. This is just a beta, so in the future there might be more options. However, as it is right now, I still have some serious problems with the challenge editor. First of all, when items are enabled in a challenge, the player has to spend their own items bought with their own gems for any attempt. Once those items are used up in the challenge attempt, it wastes the items in the player's real inventory too. Nobody wins here. If there is at least one enabled item that has no limit on how much it can be used, then there is no indication of how many you need in order to beat the challenge. On top of not knowing what you should do, every attempt, whether a win or fail, is going to drain your supply of items. I hate using up limited items on something that I might have to retry. Just think about how frustrating it is to get back none of your items you spent on a challenge attempt, with no guidelines for what you should have done to win. Even if there is a limit, the fact that it uses up your own items regardless is a massive misstep. Additionally, if a challenge only allows one hero, and that hero is a premium one, then anyone who doesn't own that hero will not be able to use them in the challenge. Think about how much potential this misses out on. Ironhide probably doesn't want to enable people to use heroes without buying them, because someone could make a challenge out of every level and every game mode to simulate playing the whole game with that hero. But come on, this means now that the challenge of the week will probably only ever cycle through the free heroes because it would otherwise showcase just how limiting this game mode is. Speaking of which, besides the My Challenges menu, there's also a Weekly Challenges menu. There's also a Made by Friends menu, which suggests that you can add friends on Frontiers. Forget threads, new social media just dropped. Everyone follow me on Kingdom Rush Frontiers. And if you do, you'll get nothing, because I probably won't be posting anything myself. This beta is only available on Android for now. In fact, I can't even access it myself. Everything I know about the update and have described so far is based on what other people have told me. So if anything I said here was wrong, thank you to Ironhide Game Studios for helping me spread misinformation online. I'll talk more about the implications of this beta being Android exclusive later, but first I need to discuss the merits of this challenge editor at all. As you noticed, it's already been 2 weeks since the beta was announced, yet barely anyone has talked about this challenge editor, and it's not just because of the Android exclusivity. The news of its existence is still able to reach everyone, but it didn't manage to get people talking. For years now, players have been doing self-imposed challenges. Unlike in the challenge editor, they still physically have more options available to them, but choose not to use them. But thanks to the innate motivation from it being more interesting, people still did everything they could even without a challenge editor. Pretty much every challenge that can be done has been done already in the years this community has been alive. The challenge editor adds one new thing, and that's the ability to play with towers that you otherwise couldn't use yet. For example, you could build a battle mecha in the desert stages, or use mages in an iron challenge that originally banned them. Funnily enough, this is the complete reverse of what modding does, because it enables you to use towers from any game in any level, except for the towers that you have to unlock in the vanilla game. But this just brings up another factor to the lack of hype. After modding took over the scene on PC, things like this seem lacking in comparison. That's not really Ironhide's fault though. Modding was never intended for these games, and competing with fan-made content is always a losing situation for developers who are held to a higher standard anyways. All modders have to do is take what's already made by Ironhide and reuse it in new ways. Ironhide has to create everything themselves and make it good enough to release as an update. But that's precisely why this update, which only adds a UI to something that people could already do in the base game and has poorly thought out implementation in some ways, is not something that I can be hyped for, especially because of its limited release. Ironhide also announced that Junk World is coming back. It's also going to have a limited release on the Apple Arcade.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
A limited release is more practical for developers since they can iron out any fundamental problems on one platform and then focus on platform-specific bugs when the release broadens. However, I want to draw attention to the reasons that developers still release their games on multiple platforms regardless of that. It's to make sure that as many fans are hyped as possible. Android, iOS, and Steam players can all look forward to the release of a new Ironhide game together. Think of how much the release of Legends of Kingdom Rush suffered because it was on Apple Arcade, or the release of Iron Marine's Invasion for not being on Steam. Word of mouth goes a long way for generating hype, so having less people in the community capable of playing and sharing the games online misses out on a much greater snowball effect for excitement. Another factor I think is limiting people's hype is how Ironhide likes to announce multiple things within a short time period. People could look forward to the challenge editor releasing on more platforms in the future, but now, attention is divided between that and the Junk World announcement, which is yet another thing people have to anticipate coming out on their platforms. To be brutally honest, this feels like settling. This isn't going to spread word of mouth about any one game of Ironhide's enough to make people outside the community care. It's testing the loyalty of people who are already fans of anything Ironhide does. I believe everything I said about the games being dormant is still true, despite the fact that we are literally getting an update for their most popular game. We've also reached a point where people have gotten their fill out of the mods for the most part. That's why I'd like to take this time to thank everyone who still cares. Whether it's because of interest in Kingdom Rush, Ironhide, or specifically in me, I appreciate it. I think one of the best achievements for anyone who posts stuff on YouTube is to reach an inner circle of loyal people who want to hear what you have to say because of who you are, and not because of the news being shared. Plenty of people have subscribed specifically because they want to be notified when something Kingdom Rush related is posted. But some people have subscribed to be notified when Voduke does something, and that means a lot. Either way, I'm very happy to help people out by providing something informative or interesting. But until there is more Kingdom Rush news, I expect the near future to hold videos for the people here specifically for me. And I think it's going to be really special. Until then, have a good one everyone.